And welcome everybody to PinstripeChronicles podcast. I am Tats. I am here with Rob, and it was just a very lopsided weekend to put it into words. We had two games where we had dominated, and one game that it was really just a battle, and then yesterday was just lopsided on Boston's part, and we ended up splitting the series. The standings are status quo from when the series started. But yesterday, I want to focus more on yesterday and the two losses before we get into the wins, so we can end on a positive note. The game yesterday was just one of those, like Rob, you had pointed out, when you give up, two leads, that's something that this team has to find unacceptable and have to understand why there was such vitriol from the fan base on social media. And you were breaking down the issue with LeMahieu, and there's a lot of people that are now they want. I hate giving him. I don't want to give him any airtime, but there was one account that we criticized privately that has him on the trade block now to get rid of. Yeah, and I am gonna call him out. So the LA Yankee King,
of course,
has him on the trade list, and it's just a joke. This is why this guy nobody takes this guy seriously. I'm sorry. You can't call yourself the Yankee King and come out with stuff like this because of one atrocious inning from LeMahieu. Break down what you saw that was going on that inning.
He was like calling off outfielders, which is it was a shallow pop fly both times, and I guess he thought he had the play, and he almost did both times to his credit. But it's like the way he fell afterwards, after like the ball fell down into the outfield, and it just looked awkward. So you're kind of like, why are you calling off Judge? And then he called off Hicks, and Hicks would have had a better throw had he made the catch to the plate that maybe could have had a double play. Who knows? But it was just rare to see LeMahieu do that because usually his IQ is so high that he would have known when to call off the outfielder or when not to. But for the fact he did it twice in one inning, it was a little annoying. But to go as far as putting him on the trading block and then starting to criticize him, the guy's having a good year. Is he going to be what he was for us in 2019? Probably not. He gets older. Players regress. It's part of the game. But two bad plays in a game that was very sloppy towards the end. I mean, it's just one of those nights. And he's one of those players you're not going to worry about. He's going to shake it off. He's going to right back out there the next game, and he'll be fine. But it was just weird because you see a player with his IQ and you're like, of all people, it's LeMahieu making that. Like you'd expect that from like Torres a couple of years ago, or even IKF you'd expect that from, but not LeMahieu. So it was strange, and it happening twice in one inning. It was like he was getting sniped or something. The way he was falling, it was weird. And someone on Twitter put the Joker gif of that guy dressed up as Joker, like falling on the skateboard. That's what he looked like the whole inning. He was just falling over, and it was weird. So, yeah, it was the term I'll use is annoying, but I'm not going to be like, we should have never signed him. It's just that's what people like to do whenever one little thing goes wrong.
It's an overreaction. Donald, how's it going? So with the whole thing with that inning, it was one of those. It shouldn't have come to that. Tyone has really not been as sharp as he was a month ago. His last couple of starts is starting to really tire down, and it all started. I think this was his worst outing. Where we thought that the Pirates outing was his worst of the year. So he's not showing where it was. All right, he wasn't his best, but he wasn't as bad as his last start. Well, he was worse than his previous start. So that just amplifies the concerns of starting pitching with the trade deadline around the corner. So, Donald, what was your take on this last night's game and the series overall?
Last night was a meltdown. We're at 6-2. I was feeling pretty damn good. I was like, 6-2, feeling good. Carpenter. I'd love to touch on Carpenter later on, but we were looking comfortable, and then we just melt down. The bullpen just fell apart. I think that the LeMahieu stuff was weird. I mean, the first one was really on him. Calling off Aaron Judge is a no-no. Aaron Judge would have gotten there comfortably. The second one is kind of a mixture between him and Hicks, because Hicks actually misjudged the ball, which he often does in center field these days. So he was kind of lazy getting to it, and then LeMahieu kind of tried, and it all went wrong. It was just ugly. And then you had IKF error. You had uncharacteristic Rizzo not getting a bouncing ball for first base. It was just all going horrifically wrong. I'm just looking at this going, what the hell's going on? Like, this is catastrophic baseball that we're playing in this inning. And then my biggest complaint was Castro. Why we allowed him to load the bases and not take him out. I could have told the coaching staff that he didn't have it from the get-go. So loading the bases, and then I'm like, oh no, only bad things are going to happen. Then Blake comes out, and whatever Blake said was not good, because he served up a meatball down the middle of the plate, and then that ended the game. And then, of course, we'd have to touch on the fact that Boone and the umpire. That's the next thing. There's a lot of stuff happened in this.
It was a very busy weekend. We're trying,
Well, all happened yesterday, to be honest.
That one game, right? Like, it was just so weird. It was annoying because, like you said, I cut you off there, but 2 4-run leads. We're 6-2, and you're like, okay, Tyone should calm it down, and then he gets blasted. And then your choice after him is Chapman. We know how that goes. Luckily, he escaped only 1 run given up, but Castro, he's so, like, hit or miss. Like, it's very – you don't know what you're getting from him, and that's very, very concerning, because you need to address that come October. You can't have these 2 guys on your playoff roster, because you don't know what you're going to need in October. Like, you know who you're going to go to in the late innings, but you might need that middle inning. And is it Peralta, because he's been kind of shaky? Is it Marinaccio? Like, who gets that inning? You really can't have King or Castro or Chapman on this roster and be like, our starter got bounced out of the game due to a high pitch count or something. We got to go with Chapman in the 5th. You can't have that. So, I mean, the Yankees have to address that. I don't know what you guys think about that one.
Well, again, that's the biggest problem, because we've got Chapman. I mean, what are they going to do with Chapman? Yeah. I mean, listen, he wasn't good yesterday. He wasn't helped, but it didn't really matter because he wasn't good. You could, if his life depended on it to throw 3 strikes in a row, you would never be able to do it. That's where he is right now. His pitches are more dangerous to the people in the stands than it is the catcher or the batter. So we can't keep running him out there. It's like definition of insanity at this point. I mean, why do you think he should be playing anything to do with high leverage games? He can't do it. No, absolutely not. So then you bring in Castro. I don't trust Castro at all. He's got electric stuff, but he can't locate them very well. And you can't have him in a high leverage spot. I'd prefer Wandy to him. I think Wandy's is a little bit better control. But again, I really think that at the trade deadline we need to add another reliever. We'll have to wait and see how Marinaccio does, because Marinaccio did really, really well. But we definitely need. I think we definitely need another bullpen arm. The Tyone stuff, it's a concern. He's getting up 20 earned runs in 20 innings. Again, he was looking pretty good for the first 2 innings, and then he started serving up meatball fastballs belt high, right down the middle of the plate. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering whether it's tiredness. I don't know, because he's not pitched a full year in a while. This is something to pay attention to.
Do you think with Tyone, maybe it's just maybe he just needs to get skipped in a row? Well, with the All-Star break coming, everybody's going to get it. It's going to reshuffle the rotation. But do you think it's more of he just needs that a long break where he just gets to just refocus, study film, and work on stuff rather than just keep focusing right on to the next start? I know some players prefer that. They don't want to have to think about what happened. They want to work on going forward. But Tyone, because like you were saying, he hasn't pitched a lot, over the last few years, with the pressure that's being put on him this year because of how well everybody started, maybe he does just need that skip of the rotation to kind of help him relax a little bit.
You could. We've done it already a couple of times this year.
Okay.
We've seen Sears come up in that spot. They could easily go a 6-man rotation if they wanted to and get Clark Schmidt some starts. They could use Sears there. Maybe one of the young guys that are killing it in AAA, Waldachuk, Wesneski, have both looked really good. They should explore the starting pitching market, though. Because I think in the bullpen aspect, you're going to get Herman back, and I don't care for him, but I'd much rather him right now than Chapman. You're going to get Marinaccio, and you're going to get Loaizaga. I don't know if there's much room for an addition unless it's like a very cheap arm that you can maybe stash in the minor leagues if you had to. So they might have to look at a starting pitcher, and Montas is on the market. He'd be a very nice get. Castillo's on the market. So there's some arms out there that if Cashman wants to give up the prospects, Oakland was and still is a very good trade partner for us.
Yeah.
And they still have guys that we can get. I was looking at Laureano because I saw him get brought up before, and his numbers don't like pop out at you, but he'd be like kind of that perfect mix of a guy who's cheap, under control, but is still going to produce for you more than what we've gotten from a certain outfielder, that he might be gettable, especially if it was a package with Montas. You might see Cashman go all in, and we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone there in an Oakland trade. So I think now, because we've seen Cortez regress over his last month, Tyone has been brutal ever since his near perfect game. Garrett Cole, I don't know what you're getting out of him. He's been really good, and then you had the other night where Devers just put him in a baby seat and he was calling him daddy. But yeah, it was weird. And Severino and Monty are only kind of sure locks right now, which is interesting because they've been really good. So they might have to go get a starter.
Yeah, it's really strange when you look at, the way that we still have, a 14-game lead in the division, and we're acting like it's only a 4-game lead, where we talk about tightening up and plugging up some holes. If we got to this point in the season where, because the Yankees were playing on such a high level and we're just handling their business without even, it almost looked effortless. Now that we're seeing a little bit of a struggle, where some things are starting to come apart, that we kind of need to step back and still say, you know what, there's really not too much wrong with this team, or is just amplifying the holes that we didn't address in the offseason.
Fill the holes. We want a championship.
Yeah.
I don't care about the lead in the division right now. We have holes on the team, and I'm going to let Donald go in just a second, but there are holes on this team that Brian Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner need to go out there, give up the prospects, get the players that we need, because we want a championship. We want 28, then we want 29 and 30, but we want 28 this year. And you have the prospect capital to go get guys that are going to help us get number 28. You have to go all in. If there was ever a year to do it, it's this one, and they have to go and do it.
Yep. Donald.
Just look at the Chicago Cubs. They were really looking good for the playoffs and decided, you know what, we're going to go and take that extra step and go and get Aroldis Chapman. That was when Chapman was really good. So they got him to push them over the edge for a championship. The Astros went and got Verlander. Teams that is not unheard of for teams that are really, really good to go and address holes. And as Rob says, we actually have more holes than, obviously we've got a record that's very similar to the 98 team, but we've got a hell of a lot more holes than the 98 team.
Yeah.
And it's something that also we have to pay attention to because of the starting rotation. My biggest concern of the starting rotation going into this year was the fact that like 3/5, 4/5 haven't really pitched a full season. Cortez, they're already actually having conversations about limiting his innings, right? Severino, he's not pitched in 2 years prior. Taillon's not pitched a full year in a while, and at this juncture now you're starting to see him slow down a little bit, right? Montgomery, he's actually pretty reliable. He's got a rubber arm, and Garrett Cole, he's pretty reliable. He's got a rubber arm too, but I mean that is a concern when you get further into the year. So we can't keep doing 6-man skip starts all the way through. So I do think another starter makes a hell of a lot of sense. We absolutely definitely need an outfielder. I think that it's amazing that we've got a 14 game lead. It's an amazing achievement. They deserve a hell of a lot of credit for the way that they've approached this year. I think Aaron Boone's done an amazing job. I think Cashman's done an amazing job. More laterally, towards the start of the year, Cashman's done an amazing job. The Trevino trade, genius. The Matt Carpenter pickup, absolutely genius. So he deserve a lot of credit for that. But there's still things that we need to do.
Yeah, while you brought him up, I know you brought him up earlier and you brought him up again. Matt Carpenter, I think that's been one of those pickups this year that really has stood out amongst all the other moves that were made. I think you can put him right in that conversation with Trevino, with guys that you didn't know what you were going to get, and what you're getting is just unbelievable. The effort and the passion to compete within those two players. But Matt Carpenter especially, he thought his career was over, and he decided that he was just going to try to, refocus, and, learn how to play again, in so many words of what he was saying earlier in the year. And it's just been, he always seems to come up in a big moment. You may not get a hit 100% of the time, but you are going to get something out of him that's going to contribute to the game.
Matt Carpenter, he worked with Matt Holliday, and that's been a big thing for him. I just love that he just never gave up, and he just fought and fought and fought. I mean, this is a Hollywood comeback story. Let's not forget that his agent and him contacted every team in the majors going into this year, and the only team that had any interest was the Yankees. Every other team rejected.
He did say in an interview, I'll let you finish. He did say in an interview that there were a couple of other teams that sent him offers that he didn't really look into. He goes, but when the Yankees called me, I was sitting on my couch. How do I turn that phone call down? How do you say no to the New York Yankees when they call? He goes, and every day that I put this uniform on is just a blessing. And when you have that mentality, you hold on to that, and you build around, you build your locker room around that.
He's not. Remember, he was DFA'd. He was on the couch. Then he was our bench player for a while. But every single time that he got a start for us, he was hitting a home run.
Yep.
And I like to take credit, but last week I was saying they need to find ways of getting him more playing time. Whatever they need to do, they need to put him in the DH spot, whatever, even an outfield spot, whatever it takes to get him in the lineup. Because when he starts, he is productive. When he's a pinch hitter, he's not productive. He needs to start. And now he's in the middle of the order, and he's crushing it. Sorry, Rob.
No, you're right. The numbers are ridiculous because he's only played 26 games. He's has 77 plate appearances. He already has as many home runs as Joey Gallo and more RBIs than him. He's got an average of 344, 447 on base. He's slugging 859. The OPS is ridiculous. The WRC plus weighted runs created plus is a 260. League average is 100. Like your average is 100 for weighted runs created plus. He's at 260. I know it's a small sample size, but his numbers are like he's like the Shane Spencer of this year. You know, like the guy that's just coming up and hitting home runs, and you're like, when's it going to stop? And I know the Yankees don't believe in hot streaks, but you have to ride it. He has to start every day, whether it's him in left field and then Stanton plays right, Judge in center, and then you DH Carpenter the next day and or you DH Carpenter, wherever you want to put him. He can play third. He can play first. He can play the corners if you need him to. And he's 36. Let's not forget that. He's producing more than Donaldson. He's making like league minimum salary. Mm-hmm. So he's outproducing two players that we were expecting to be huge parts of our order throughout the whole season. He's had in 77 plate appearances more production than both of them combined almost. Like it's really fun. It's a really fun story in a year that's had a lot of great stories. We're talking about Nestor Cortez and Trevino, two people that everyone looked at as like, Trevino's a backup. Cortez is a number 5 starter, long relief arm at best. They're both all-stars. You got Matt Carpenter coming up off the scrap heap at 36, producing like he's Reggie Jackson. Like it's unbelievable. So it's been a great year of good stories. And again, you have all these things culminating into a historic run that we've been on, a 14-game lead that we can easily put this thing out of reach by the time we get like a month from now into August. This thing could be out of reach and we could have the division on lock. So you have to go get those pieces that are going to help you do so. They have holes. They're not many, but having another outfielder, you need it. Having another starter, we're seeing it, you need it. And I know I just said that earlier, but yeah, Carpenter's been fantastic. And he's just another reason why they should go all in, because all these great stories make for such an amazing piece of what could be like a World Series DVD or a book about the 2022 Yankees. He's going to have his own chapter. You know, like you're going to want to read about Matt Carpenter's story. And it's just another reason why I want them to just go all in, put all your chips on the table. If you have to trade Peraza to go get that piece that you need, you have to go do it. And yeah, it's been fun watching him play. The mustache lives. The mustache brings a lot of power, apparently. Because that dude's hitting home runs every time he comes up.
No, I never complain about a guy with a mustache, you know. But no, it's been a storybook. That's really the perfect way to put it. It's just a storybook year for him. And you know, the other storybook has been, you know, with Trevino, Clay Holmes, Nestor Cortez, the three of them who didn't know where their roles were going to be, how their years were going to come together. We are going to the All-Star game this year. And I thought that the Yankees Twitter page I thought it was really cool. They put the announcements to the players on their page, so you can see their reactions live. So if you haven't seen that, check that out, because it's especially Trevino. Trevino is very emotional about it. One of the things that Holmes said, was, thank God it's as a Yankee. So these guys are they're bought into this. Even the one with Nestor, Boone said to him, what did I tell you was going to happen in spring training? He goes, it's coming.
Well, that's it. The full conversation was Cortez was like, am I going to make the team coming out of spring? And Boone's like, make the team? Dude, you're going to the All-Star game.
Yeah. It's true.
You'll be in LA midsummer.
It's amazing.
So, credit to Boone there, man. Boone deserves a lot of credit for this year. But yeah, 6 All-Star guys, and you could even make the argument that Rizzo could have been there as well. I mean,
King.
There's King, yeah. there's been a lot of guys that have had really good years. Torres it was in the conversation for a while too. Just everyone performed. I'm so happy for Trevino.
Yeah.
What an amazing story. It has been, as Rob says, there's been a lot of Hollywood stories this year. The Trevino story, it could be a Lifetime movie. Carpenter could be a Lifetime movie. You're getting these awesome movies. So and listen a little bit. Clay Holmes, he had like a 5 ERA. He goes to the Yankees and he's got a 0.30 ERA. He's barely given up a run since the start of the year. Dude's been incredible too. So all these incredible stories.
Yeah, depending on how the year finishes, Matt Carpenter could pretty much be the baseball stories version of Kurt Warner. Who was packing groceries and got a second chance playing it. In this the CFL, and then went to a training and was able to revitalize his career. This could be almost a parallel to that, which would be interesting.
It was a solid movie. I watched that on the flight over to New York. That was a fun movie. I like that.
Yeah.
Bobby Tats does not watch movies, and here he is bringing out a movie reference. This is a new time here.
And with football, no less.
Yeah, football movies. Guy doesn't watch football or movies.
What did you guys think of the umpire last night?
Oh, my goodness. You can look at the game day app and then look at the at-bat, and they both tell you the same thing. The guy is blind. And I put it on Twitter. I was like, I'm going to pour acid in my eyes and apply to be an MLB umpire because that's apparently a requirement. These guys are blind every night. Bad. And it's on both sides, too. I don't want to be like the Yankees are the only team that's getting squeezed here. No, both teams are just – it's ridiculous. The umpires have been atrocious for a long time. There are some good ones, but there are so many bad ones. Aaron Boone was very justified in getting thrown out last night. It's like the fourth time it seems like in the last week that he's gotten into an argument with an umpire. It's annoying.
What speaks volumes about how bad the umpires are, Aaron Judge is very composed when he's at the plate. He might say something. Sometimes he'll just walk away. But that one strikeout, I think it was in game 2, where he got called out on the slider that was nowhere near the zone. It's like, even Susan Wallman, I had tweeted out, said I was listening from work. He goes, this is appalling. How many times is Aaron Judge going to have to go through this? He's not going to get any shorter. Stop lowering the strike zone for this guy. You're not doing any justice to the game. You're not, the umpires are not making themselves look good. And that's what it is. It's not that they were, favoring the Red Sox or favoring the Yankees, but it's all across baseball. You'll see clips. The umpires are just terrible, and they're going to actually umpire themselves out of the game when they bring the robots in.
Good,
because the way they've umpired this year has been as bad as I've ever seen in my entire life. This year is it's like an Eric day. Game 4 right there, they were not pitching to Stanton. They're pitching around him. They wanted to face Donaldson. They wanted nothing to do with Stanton. Stanton was hitting line drives every single at-bat, and they were terrified of him. So they threw 6 balls, and the umpire called 3 strikes. And Boone went absolutely nuts, and he was shouting, 6 balls, that's 6 balls, and then he went and chased after the umpire. Good for Boone. Honestly, just disgusting the way they took the bat out of Stanton's hands. They did not want to pitch to Stanton. Yeah, they gave him gave the guy a strikeout. That's just disgusting.
Yeah, no,
honestly, go sort yourselves out. Go sort yourselves out. They're a freaking joke.
Yep. But on that note,
Robots now
for us today. But thank you for watching on Northeast Streaming Sports on Roku. Hope you all have a very good day. Wear your pinstripes, your pride. Play hard. We will see you tomorrow.